Have you ever wished you could see Jesus exactly as he is? Not just as a carpenter from Nazareth, not just as a teacher surrounded by crowds, but in his full divine glory. 3 ordinary fishermen were given that privilege. It happened on a lonely mountain. For just a few breathtaking moments, heaven touched earth. Everything they thought they knew about Jesus changed forever. This wasn't just another miracle, it was a glimpse of eternity. And today, nearly 2,000 years later, the Catholic Church celebrates this incredible event every August 6, calling it the Feast of the Transfiguration. But why? Let's climb the mountain with Peter, James, and John and experience the story for ourselves. Jesus called 3 of his closest disciples, Peter, James, John. Come with me. No explanation, no announcement, just an invitation. They began climbing. The path was steep. Rocks shifted beneath their feet. The sun beat down on them. As they climbed higher, the sounds of villages faded away until only the wind could be heard. Perhaps Peter wondered where they were going. Perhaps John thought Jesus simply wanted another quiet place to pray. None of them imagined that history was about to change. When they reached the summit, Jesus stopped. As he often did, he began to pray. The disciples watched. Then, something impossible happened. The face they had seen every day suddenly shone brighter than the midday sun. His clothes became dazzling white, whiter than any cloth on earth could ever become. The man they had walked beside was no longer hidden beneath ordinary human appearance. His divine glory burst forth. The veil was lifted. For one unforgettable moment, they saw Jesus not merely as a rabbi, but as the eternal Son of God. Peter could hardly breathe. James stood speechless. John stared in amazement. As if this wasn't astonishing enough, 2 figures suddenly appeared beside Jesus. Not strangers, not angels. It was Moses, the great leader who led Israel out of Egypt, the man who received the 10 Commandments from God. And standing beside him was Elijah, the greatest of the prophets, men who had lived centuries before. Yet here they were, alive, speaking with Jesus. Luke tells us they were discussing something extraordinary. They spoke about the suffering Jesus would soon endure in Jerusalem. The cross was no accident. It had always been part of God's plan to save the world. Peter couldn't contain himself. Lord, it is good that we are here. He wanted the moment to last forever. So let us build 3 tents, 1 for Jesus, 1 for Moses, 1 for Elijah. Peter wasn't thinking clearly. Who could blame him? When you experience heaven touching earth, you never want the moment to end. But God had something greater to reveal. Suddenly, a bright cloud surrounded them. Throughout Scripture, clouds always signified God's presence. The disciples trembled. Then came a voice unlike any voice ever heard. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Then came the command every Christian needs to hear. Listen to him. Not to the loudest voices in the world. Not to passing opinions. Not to fear. Not even to your own pride. Listen to Jesus. The disciples fell face down in awe. Then, everything became quiet. Jesus gently touched them. Rise, and do not be afraid. When they looked up, Moses was gone. Elijah was gone. Only Jesus remained. Only Jesus was enough. The Transfiguration wasn't simply about dazzling light. It prepared the disciples for something much darker. Very soon they would see Jesus betrayed, arrested, mocked, scourged, crucified. Without the mountain, the cross might have destroyed their faith, but now they knew. The one hanging on the cross was the same glorious Son of God they had seen shining with heavenly light. The cross was not defeat, it was the path to glory. And that is why this story matters for us. Every one of us has mountains and valleys, moments when God feels close, moments when life is painful. The Transfiguration reminds us that God's glory is often hidden, but never absent. Every year, on August 6th, Catholics celebrate the Feast of the Transfiguration. The Church invites us to climb that mountain again, not with our feet, but with our hearts. She reminds us that Jesus is truly God and truly man. She reminds us that suffering is never the final chapter. And she reminds us that if we faithfully follow Christ, one day we too will share in His glory. The same light that shone on Mount Tabor is the light that Christ desires to shine in every Christian soul. So, whenever life feels heavy, remember that mountain. Remember the Father's words, "This is my beloved Son." Listen to Him. Because the one who revealed His glory on the mountain is the same Jesus who walks with us today, leading us toward the glory of heaven